Hi everyone, I'm here in Abundance, and today I'm gonna make a really simple custom or like a round sign with a custom SVG in the middle that I can cut. And I'm going to show you how to do that and how to export it into G-code or into an STL and share it. So basically, what I want to start with is with a circle, and if I right click, I'll open my main menu, my main atom menu, and I can navigate to the right, and in shapes I'll find my circle. So as you place it, you will see it show up right here, and I want to give it a different diameter than the default diameter, which is 10. In my case, maybe I'll say 300. We're working in millimeters in this case, so that seems like a good size. But because I probably want to use that value elsewhere, the full width of my sign, I want to create an input atom that I can pass that value to the circle with. So go back to my menu, right click, and create an input, and you'll see it show up here on the left of the screen. And I'm gonna name it something differently. I can change the name while it's selected down here, and it's gonna be sign width. You'll see a change, and if I go back, click on the background of my project, I can see it here, sign width, and I can give it a different value, and it's gonna be 300. And if I hover over it, I can see that it has an output. And I can click down and drag a connector from that input atom onto my circle diameter input. Okay, so now they're connected. So now if I change sign width, the value of the diameter of my circle will also change. So now that I have a circle of the width that I want, and I want to extrude it, and to do that, I want to go back to my menu, and in actions you'll find the extrude, and it has a default value, so it'll extrude it a value of 10. But I actually do want to have more control over that, and I'm going to create another input that will be called ply with thickness, or ply thick, and that's a good default value of 8. And I am going to do the same, click down and drag a connector from my ply thickness to my extrude height, and that way they're locked together. Great, so now I have an extruded circle, and what I want to do next is get the shape that I want to cut out of my circle, my sign. And to do that, I want to import an SVG, and for that I'm gonna place an import atom. So you're right, we click left, look for the input submenu, look for your import atom, and you'll see that if selected, I can see the types of files that I can import. In this case, I want to import an SVG. I'm gonna load my file, and I want to load this dog over here. Okay, let's load something else because the dog is not working. Okay, let's load this guy. Okay. Okay, so I loaded this 0, and a width of 1 right now is good, since I want to scale it later. And okay, so I have my SVG, and now I want to export it. I want to extrude it. And I want to extrude it. That's really dramatic. But let's say, okay, I'll give it a different value. I'll give it a value of 10 so we can see it more clearly. and now extrude it. And I actually maybe want to extrude it the same as my plywood thickness, so I'll just connect it to the height. And then I want to take my SVG out of my circle, and for that I'm going to use an atom called difference. So give it as my first geometry, I'm going to give it my circle. As my second geometry, I'm going to give it my SVG, my extruded SVG. And I can see that it took it out of it. So now we have a circle with a big chunk taken out of it. But I don't want it to be that small. I want it to be a lot bigger. And for that, I'm going to scale my import to be bigger to match the width of my sign. But if you go to your menu, you'll see that there is no scale available. And instead, what I'm going to do is import a GitHub molecule, which are molecules which other people or you have made, which you can use as tools in your project. And for that, I'm going to go to import and go to GitHub molecule. And there's a couple other ways that you can access this. You can also press Alt, or you can go right here. Okay, and then I'm going to search for a GitHub molecule, and the GitHub molecule that I'm searching for, I might not know what this is called. I could look for something that I'm hoping to find, which is scale. And I'm searching. And here in my list, I can see that there's several molecules that match my search. So this scale project made by Barbara Smith. There's this other scale that was made by me. And so I'm going to place that one since I've used that one before. And I'm going to take the output of my import and put it into the geometry of that scale. And my scale factor, maybe I want my scale factor to be the same as my sign width. And now I have a huge 0. And I'm going to delete this geometry and pass the geometry of output from scale. And okay, that's just way too big. So what we want to do is maybe not give it such a big scale factor, but maybe we'll give it a scale factor of 150. Great. That's actually perfect, except that I don't really want to cut out everything. I don't really want to cut out the entire 0. I just want it to be slightly raised so that it only cuts halfway through. And to do that, I am going to move my extruded SVG a little bit up. And let's say we want to move it. I actually want it to be perfectly halfway up my plywood. And for that, I'm going to place equation atom, and I'm going to tell it my X is my plywood thickness. So the value that I want is halfway there, half that. And okay, and I should have moved it. And I'm going to replace this difference, the geometry that I'm using in this difference, with the geometry that I just moved. Ta-da! There you go. And I have a circle with my custom SVG perfectly sized for that. But what happens if I make my sign way bigger? Right? My SVG is not yet tied to the width of my sign, but I want to tie it. So we're using about half that, about half of my sign width as the scale factor. So what I can do here is either add an equation atom and tell it I want the scale factor to be half of my width, or I could also go here and say sign width divided by 2. And now they should be tied together. So now if my sign width changes to be 100, everything should resize accordingly. So you might be wondering why, when I click on something, when I click on the background or when I click on something else, I can't really see my full model. And that's because we have nothing connected to our output. So as you're working, you might want to connect things to your output just to see what like your full model is looking like right now. But and that will be what your project will be shared with. Like that, this is the end result of your project. Whatever you connect to the output is the final result of your project. Okay, so I have a sign that I'm happy with. And now I want to export it. And to do that, I want to go back to my import export submenu and find my export. I see that it has a geometry input, and I'm going to click it. And I can download it here as an STL, as an SVG, which won't be very exciting because it'll just be a circle. And if I click download, it'll prompt me to download it. And I can also prepare it as a G-code. Which in this case, you can see I can choose the number of passes I have. Okay. And make sure you save your project. And that's it. And if you want to share your project or see how other people see it, you can go into run mode. Here, if you added a G-code atom, you can preview it. You can change the width of your sign since you have made that as an input. Or I could change the thickness of my plywood and make it into 10. And here you can choose to share with other people. You could start someone else's project, and so forth. Anyway, that's all.